This video is brought to you by the FMB shop, where you can find some of the best Scale 400 models. Find the link in the video description below. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I have for a very long time wanted to branch out a little bit with these reviews, and thanks to the great prices of the FMB shop, I'm able to do so. So today we will take a look at my very first Scale 400 review ever on this channel. I'm excited and I hope you are too. With all that excitement, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at a Boeing 787-9 of Scoot. Now at the front of the box we have a lovely rendition of the aircraft. We have plenty of Pokemon, and of course also the Pokemon branding and the NG and Scoot branding. The backside of the box then offers us a plethora of details. Well, okay, it's the same as on the front, but that is not bad because it actually looks pretty decent. But we do find some interesting information here. I mean, some companies, mainly one from Germany, and perhaps one from the US, cough cough, just always say, oh, these companies, they never produce anything with a license. But, I mean, sure, this might be a fake print, but it does at least say on the box that this is officially licensed by Boeing, so there's at least that. And one more little detail that is worth mentioning before we get any further into today's review is that all NG models come with this little card nowadays, where you basically have a code so you can redeem some points in their loyalty program. And here she is, the Boeing 787-9 in this special Pokemon livery of Scoot. Now, since there is a ton to say about this aircraft model, I don't think we should waste any more time and simply jump right into it. And the best way to do so is by taking a look at the tail section. Here on the vertical stabilizer, actually from the fuselage and then across the entire vertical stabilizer, we have the Scoot branding. On the fuselage, we then find the full registration code of the aircraft, and also quite funny, underneath the highly detailed cabin door, we have loads of writing here. Those are basically copyright and trademark notifications about all the different things that are displayed across the aircraft. I don't think I've seen something like this before in an aircraft. But there's no time to waste, because at the very tail of the aircraft we of course also find the APU exhaust, and underneath that we have a lovely print as well. Now at the front of the aircraft we do of course find a bunch of Pokemon, but we will go into the livery a little bit later in the video. So what else can we find here? Well, next to the very highly detailed front cabin door we have this little logo, which I believe is the Pokemon Air Adventures logo, because there are a bunch of aircraft at the moment flying around with various Pokemon liveries. We then also have a whole range of static ports covered across the fuselage, almost hidden in this very elaborate livery, but when we look closer we can actually see them. And towards the cockpit section we then also find some pedo tubes. But before we cover the cockpit section, let's take a look at the top of the fuselage, because here we also find plenty of details. For example, a lovely set dome, but of course we also have physical antennas, which is always very lovely, but also some print details here across the fuselage. So overall, quite lovely so far. Now let us move towards the cockpit section, because here underneath the cockpit windows we find the name of the aircraft, very poetically named Pikachu Jet. And then of course we also have the cockpit windows with the window wipers. We have a very lovely detailed nose cone, where when we actually also look underneath the nose find even further printed details. And then of course also just above the cockpit windows we have the emergency hatch for the cockpit printed on as well. Now let's move on to the engine nacelles, which have been kept in all white, but we do have the silver leading edge, some safety relevant markings, and a lovely Pokeball. But that's not all, because when we look on the underside we can see we have even more lovely printed details. Now when it comes to the physical detailing, I think it's overall pretty alright. This looks very decent. I just think that the chevron nozzles could have been a little sharper, a little bit more pronounced, but when we look into the engines we can very nicely see the engine fan blades. But let us also take a closer look at the wings, starting off with the top side. And here we can see the different flaps, slats and spoilers have been carved out, although that could have been a little bit more pronounced. It's kind of drowning away a little bit in the white paint, but we do have some lovely markings, including the markings as to where to walk on the wing. The underside of the wings then offers us more lovely physical detailing, and we also find the full registration code of the aircraft once again. My highlight, however, is the addition of the landing lights. Now before we take a look at the remaining details and the spectacular livery, there is a quick message from our sponsor today. Hi, if you are looking for new Scale 400 models, then look no further. The FMB shop has got you covered with some of the best brands in the business. NG models, JC Wings, and of course Gemini Jets are within their portfolio. So head over to their website and find your next favorite model. And by the way, they do of course also have Scale 500 and 200. So check out their website. The link to that is in the video description below. Now, if we take a look at the landing gear, we will see a very highly detailed landing gear with wheel caps and loads of small details. It is made out of metal, which makes it quite sturdy, although the wheels are rolling, which I'm always a little bit nervous about because I'm always fearful that these pins will break at some point. So that's not my cup of tea, but the overall look of the landing gear is of course brilliant, especially since we also have some printed details. A detail that the model also sports are the ram air intakes, although in my opinion that could have been a little bit sharper, a little bit more pronounced. But since we are on the belly of the aircraft, we can also take a look at some of the other lovely printed details that we find across the fuselage. Unfortunately, also in Scale 400, manufacturers tend to drill a hole into the fuselage for a stand, which is not included with this aircraft model. And since it destroys a printed detail, well, I'm not a fan. Of course, I know that there are more Scale 400 models that are displayed on a stand, but I mean, if you don't deliver it with the aircraft model, for me, it's a silly decision. What isn't silly, however, is that we can find yet another physical antenna. And then last but not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft and here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Boeing 787-9 of Scoot in the special Pikachu livery from NG models in scale 1 to 400. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Now, to make it short, this is a lovely aircraft model, but do also allow me to elaborate a little bit on that. Now, I would argue that the target audience is someone who likes Pokemon, but it doesn't exclude anyone who doesn't know much about it. Now, I like Pokemon, but I can't really say that I know much about them anymore because it's been quite a few years since I last really, looked at them. I recognize Pikachu and this stock thing, which I don't remember the name of, and there's something that looks like the younger brother or sister of Pikachu. But apart from me clearly not knowing enough about Pokemon, NG Models has done a solid with this print. It is as sharp as can be. But the even better point here is that NG Models hasn't hidden behind this elaborate livery, because they have still added a ton of details that relate to the aircraft itself, and they could probably have gotten away with leaving away some of these details because you only see them when you really get close to the aircraft model, but still they have added them, and that's a sign of a manufacturer that actually cares about their product. So good on you, NG Models. When we then look at the physical detailing of the model, I think overall this is a solid job as well. The mold is great, but I think there are also a few things that could be improved a little bit. The ram air intakes for me are not sharp enough. This is a little bit too vague. And I'm just not a fan of rolling landing gear just because I'm always nervous that it will break at some point, even though the overall feel of the landing gear is pretty solid as well. So yeah, as I said, this is a great aircraft model, and I'm pretty sure that even if you are not a huge Pokemon fan, you will have a lot of fun with this aircraft model. And therefore I would say yes, it is worth to have in one's collection if you collect Scale 400. Now with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like, and of course if you are new around here, then why not hit subscribe. With that, thanks so much for watching, hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.